Good afternoon, and welcome to today's event. My name is Sriraj Patel, Chair of the Winnipeg Chamber of Commerce and Vice President of Commercial Financial Services at RBC. Before we begin, on behalf of the Winnipeg Chamber of Commerce, I'd like to acknowledge we're gathered today on Treaty 1 territory, the traditional land of the Ojibwe Cree, Oji Cree, Dakota, and Dene nations, and the homeland of the Red River Métis. In October 2015, the Winnipeg Chamber, in partnership with the Aboriginal Chamber of Commerce, hosted a panel discussion entitled Understanding Urban Reserves, where we welcomed chiefs from Swan Lake First Nation and the Long Place First Nation to discuss the potential of urban reserves in Winnipeg. For those who aren't aware, an urban reserve is defined as a reserve within or adjacent to an urban center. The goal of the 2015 event was to help shine a light on the benefits of urban reserves for not only Indigenous communities, but also our province. It was all about getting the facts and learning more about these economic development zones that represent pathways to mutually beneficial business partnerships for First Nations, businesses, and you, the local business community. Today, there are 120 urban reserves in Canada and 10 urban reserves in Manitoba, one of them being our Polo Park area. Urban reserves help create economic growth for everyone involved and to benefit the community at large. Fast forward to October 22nd, 2020, the preferred concept plan for the redevelopment of the Kapyong Barracks was unveiled by Treaty 1 Development Corporation and Canada Lands with extensive input from Treaty 1 First Nations members and their Winnipeg neighbors. Based on the feedback they received, they developed the concept plan with some of these thoughts and ideas in mind. Strong support for mixed-use village concept, including places to shop and work, a strong desire to showcase Indigenous culture and design. People want more green, open spaces. So where are we now with the development of Canada's largest urban reserve? We have the privilege and honor to speak with Tim Daniels, Chief Operating Officer of Treaty 1 Development Corporation, to help answer those questions and more. Today's virtual luncheon programming is set up to reflect your usual in-person luncheon experience. This is your opportunity to connect with your community and other chamber members, all from your home office. You have any technical issues today, please contact any of our chamber staff by chat. On the right-hand side, they are listed as WCC Help under the attendee list. Before we welcome our keynote speaker, we would like to thank our title sponsors, Cushman & Wakefield Stevenson and the University of Winnipeg. Also, our registration sponsor, TC Energy. We appreciate your support. We would also like to thank our chamber champions and chamber leaders who have stepped up and helped the chamber in providing events and supports to our members. Thank you for everything you do. We encourage you to get on social media to join in on the conversation using the hashtag WCCBiz. Okay, let's us get started. I'm extremely excited to be introducing to you our keynote speaker today. Tim Daniels is a proud Anishinabe from the Long Plains First Nation located on Treaty 1 territory. He is currently Chief Operating Officer with Treaty 1 Development Corporation, responsible for the master plan and development of the 160-acre former Kapyong Barracks in Winnipeg. Tim has a wealth of experience in property and business development and is devoted to projects that help First Nations strive for economic success and sustainability. His accomplishments include development of Long Plain urban reserves in both Winnipeg and Port Aux Claires, which have established Long Plain First Nation as an economic force in Canada. Tim has won many awards, including as Economic Developer of the Year, Spirit of Growth, and Visionary Indigenous Business Excellence Awards, to mention just a few. It is my pleasure to introduce you to Tim Daniels. Thank you, Tim, for joining us. First off, how are you doing?
I'm doing very well, thank you, Raj, and very excited to be part of this luncheon. And I want to thank you for registering and being part of this great landmark project that you're about to hear. Looking forward to 2021, and 2020 had its challenges, right? And we all shifted and adjusted, and we still progressed, and we still carried off our mandate in terms of Treaty 1, and we're very excited to have that discussion with you today.
Excellent. Well, I'll start us off by, for those who don't know, what is Treaty 1 Development Corporation?
The Treaty 1 Development Corporation was first registered in July of 2018. The directors of the corporation are the chiefs of the 7 Treaty 1 nations, which include Broken Head, Ojibwe First Nation, Long Plain First Nation, Peguis First Nation, Roseau River Anishinabe First Nation, Saging First Nation, Sandy Bay First Nation, and the Swan Lake First Nation. Together, combined, the 7 First Nations have a population of 36,000 First Nations people here in Manitoba, a very large population in the Treaty 1 territory. I want to also acknowledge right now our chiefs, our present chiefs of who are the board of directors of the Development Corporation, but also acknowledging the past leadership. You know, the Kapyong Barracks initiative started in the early 2000s, and it's been a long process. And I want to acknowledge the past leaders that brought us to this point in time today. The mandate of the Treaty 1 Development Corporation is to use, manage, administer, and regulate its Kapyong lands, to control the disposition of rights and interests in the Kapyong lands, to regulate the use of buildings on the Kapyong lands, to use, manage, and administer its monies and other assets utilized, generated, and required as a part of the Kapyong lands, to promote the general welfare of our members of the Treaty 1 nations, and to promote and carry out community development. Now, the staff of the Treaty 1 Development Corporation, there's about a dozen of us. We first started off with 5 employees in 2009, April of 2019, and we've grown to a dozen today. We're staffed with a dozen people, and we're proud to say that our employees are coming from the 7 First Nations of Treaty 1 territory. And we have a wealth of experience in reserve creation and business creation and business management. You know, we have Waylon Sutherland, our CEO. He's from Peguis, and Nina Forbes. Together, they worked on the Peguis Urban Reserve. There's urban reserve on Portage Avenue that belongs to Peguis First Nation. So they were involved in that. Then there's Gord Blue Sky, our lands director, involved in lands management for many years, helping his First Nation, the Broken Head First Nation, establish lands just outside of Winnipeg in East St. Paul. So a very experienced team, including myself, who had the honor to be part of creating and developing 2 urban reserves in the province of Manitoba. We've also formed a strong partnership with Canada Lands Company. Canada Lands Company is a arm's length corporation of the federal government, and they manage lands that the federal government disposes of and turns around for development. So we formed a strong partnership with the Canada Lands Company, who will be developing the property alongside of us. The property is the ownership is 68% Treaty 1 and 32% Canada Lands Company. So there is a synergy to work together. So it's Canada Lands. We're learning a lot from them. Mentorship and their experience, 25 years experience in taking former military bases and developing them into award-winning communities. For an example, the Curry community in the city of Calgary.
Excellent. Well, it sounds like you have a perfect group of minds and expertise at the table. That's phenomenal. Tim, we've promoted this discussion today on what will become the new urban reserve at Kapyong. Can you tell me what the term urban reserve means to you? As well, have you faced any misconceptions using the term? And if so, what have you been doing to change these views?
That's a good question. Urban reserves, they're not new. There's 120 of them here in Canada. The advantage of urban reserves is that they provide potential for economic and revenue generation for First Nations, whose main reserves are typically, geographically and economically isolated, from the larger population. There's the lack of infrastructure on these reserves that impede their development. Roads, water, wastewater treatment, fiber optic connectivity, impedes their development. So there needs to be an investment into these communities for them to prosper. That's going on. So that's why these urban reserves are very key to our future, to First Nations to prosper economically and socially, right? Part of what makes the Kapyong project unique is that we're located deep in the affluent area in a major metropolis. Typically urban reserves are smaller pieces of land, usually on the outskirts of a city, or if they are in a city, they're small reserves. I'll use the Madison Reserve of the Long Plain First Nation, less than three acres, about a half city block. And the same goes for Peguis, approximately 3 acres of land too. So very small, but very prosperous businesses going on there right now. But the Kapyong Barracks is 160 acres compared to those 3 acre lands. There's also there's lands outside of Winnipeg that are we view as urban reserves. There's the Headingley Swan Lake First Nation. They have some lands there as well. As you approach the city of Winnipeg, they're developing quite quickly there. And there's the Roseau River, who has lands just outside of the perimeter highway on highway number 6. Misconceptions. I spoke about Swan Lake about 20 years ago. I attended town hall meetings in Headingley because they had proposed to do some development in Headingley, and so I attended those town hall meetings where I found that there was some misinformation or lack of information. There was some ignorance, but there's also some racism in what my brothers and sisters proposed to do in Headingley. And but learning from that, attending those town hall meetings in Headingley, fast forward 10 years, I'm now working in Long Plain to create the Madison Reserve in the Polo Park area. So what I wanted to do was meet my neighbors with my development plan. And the city councilor in St. James asked us to do a town hall meeting to address the citizens of Winnipeg, and particularly his constituencies in St. James. So we scheduled that, but I didn't want to go in there cold. I didn't want to go in there and get faced the questions that my brothers and sisters were faced, like misconceptions of tax. We don't pay tax. We pay tax. Through municipal service agreements, these businesses are providing administration fees in lieu of taxes. Derelict buildings or substandard housing. Can I shop at your gas station? Can I buy stuff at your gas station? We needed to address those concerns up front before a town hall meeting. So what I did is, and a couple other people from Long Plain, is I took my development plan. It's a lot smaller than what I have behind here for Kapyong, but I met them face to face. I knocked on their doors. Hi, I'm Tim Daniels from the Long Plain First Nation. Here's a development plan, the former Manitoba Hydro on 480 Madison. I showed them the development plan and addressed the concerns right there, and went over their support. So when we had our town hall meeting, it was very smooth and very supportive of the people that attended, because I had won over their confidence by meeting them face to face. Because that's all about. It's all about information and meeting your neighbors, right? And then you dispel any rumors, and like for instance, you spoke of this development plan behind me. It was developed with a strong engagement and strong communication. We have very strong communication teams with the Treaty 1 Development Corporation, with the Canada Lands Company, and through our urban planners, Scatliff Miller Murray, a very great team they assembled to help us with this development plan. For instance, when we released this development plan in October of 2019, in a 24-hour period, we reached an audience of 6.8 million viewers on TV, on radio, and print. And the subsequent research of those 24 hours is that we achieved a 75% approval rating on what we were doing, with only 3% disapproving, with the remainder undecided. So that's not a negative to us. That's a positive feedback from what we proposed to do on the Kapyong site. So it's been wonderful. Public process. We engaged with the community of Winnipeg as well. Of course we engaged with our 7 Treaty 1 bands. We attended in person on reserve in community engagements with their members and their leadership. As well as youth councils and elder councils, taking into consideration their ideas, their vision for the site, but also working with the city of Winnipeg by meeting with the the two city councilors that surround us at that site. Councilors Kevin Klein and Councilor John Arlico, as well as the city departments and executives. We've been consulting and engaging with them throughout this project. Like the city departments, including Winnipeg Planning and Property Development, Winnipeg Public Works, Winnipeg Transit, Winnipeg Equity and Diversity Initiative, Public Works, school divisions. We met with the three school divisions, as well as CMHC, Bike Winnipeg, and Trails Association. So a lot of things have been considered in this plan, and we've consulted and worked with the city. When this whole pandemic started, it changed our lives forever in terms of how we do business, right? It's brought us closer in terms of technology. In that sense, I do miss the human interaction, though. I do miss that. But when COVID first started last spring in March, we had the time in a development corporation now to okay, we got to figure out this virtual thing, but we need to keep the project going and on track to meet our deadlines. So we took project management training online together, senior managers with a trainer, and then we recognized how important project management is in terms of the software. We took one of our staff, and they solely took training for 2 months straight on project management and the software that we use. So we've adapted that way in terms of project management and software and technology. And the same went for our public engagements. Like typically, when you're doing a development of this size, you're going to have some town hall meetings. You're going to have some public engagements, showing off the development plan and answering the questions there and giving them the answers, right? Well, COVID shut that down. We had planned to do this at the end of March of 2020. So we had to take a step back and figure out how we're going to engage with the people. So we took it online. We developed a very comprehensive website, our social media platforms in terms of sharing of information, because information is like I said at the beginning of how to address that is addressing the information and how we're going to get it. So Teams there's Microsoft Teams and Zoom and the like. So we have adapted and learned that those platforms. So we took our engagement online. Our urban planner, Scatliff Miller Murray, coordinated a wonderful event in June of 2020. And we had our virtual town hall meeting in one evening in June. I'm smiling because it just so happens there was an electrical storm just when we started, and our opening welcoming remarks, lightning struck downtown and we lost power for like 10 minutes. So the technology has its challenges, right? So but that didn't stop us. We plugged through the evening, and we had 813 people register for the event, watching us live unveiling 3 concept plans for that evening. And what came out of that is we had 3,000 surveys filled out in terms of questions asked of how do you want to see Kapyong, and concerns questions. And during that night, we had 800 questions forwarded to us, or comments, as we conducted that live engagement. So getting to your question and addressing the misconceptions, provide as much information as you can, and dispel the rumors.
Phenomenal. Well, I'm so excited for this project to come to life, and that's a product of the passion and kind of due diligence that you've all invested. So that's amazing. In a few sentences, what is the vision for this site?
The creation of a First Nation economic zone will provide number of benefits for First Nations and the city. They include advancing First Nations economic prosperity, independence, and self-governance, promoting innovation and new ideas in urban development, creating connections with the surrounding community, contributing to urban redevelopment and the local economy, and generating revenues for the city through the provision of municipal services.
Amazing. What really resonated with me was that piece about building connections. I think that's very powerful.
Yes.
Where would you say the development is today?
Well, presently, the part of the national defense is demolishing the site. When you've traveled along the site down Keniston or Grant or Taylor, you'll see a lot of the buildings are gone now. You know, the surface is pretty much demolished. They started about a year and a half ago, and now they're at the point where they're going to be ripping out the present infrastructure on the stuff under the ground. You know, the old pipes and the old communication lines. That's all going to be ripped out and demolished throughout the summer, and they're scheduled to finish their demolition by October of this year of 2021. You know, we work with an urban planner, Scott Miller Murray, great organization, work with great team they've assembled there in terms of, you know, landscape and architecture, planning and engagement, and of course, you know, the traffic studies and such that go on into developing a plan such as this. A very great team, big team. I want to congratulate them on this, because our master plan is scheduled to be completed by mid-February. So when you see this, you know, it's going to be completed. So, you know, Treaty 1 Development Corporation, you know, we work with the Canada Lands Company, as I mentioned. So we have developed this master plan on the former Kapyong Barracks. It establishes a comprehensive planning and land use framework for the transformation of this 160-acre site into a diverse and vibrant mixed-use community that emphasizes Indigenous design, excellence, and connectivity to the surrounding established neighborhood. The master plan is based on 7 overarching aspirations that underscore the potential of development to bring communities together by generating prosperity and cultivating partnerships, building a welcoming and inclusive community, celebrating First Nations identity and culture, promoting sustainable urban development, advancing new expressions in Indigenous design, sharing knowledge and cultural teachings, and showcasing innovation in design and urban development. The land use framework is organized around 7 land use designations that work together to create a complete community with a diverse mix of housing, businesses, cultural institutions, and community amenities and attractions. Behind me here, you see the master plan, and you can see the different color codings. And if I can, I may speak to each of the color codings on the plan. First is the mixed-use village. The mixed-use village runs along Grant and east and west of Route 90 or Keniston. So the mixed-use village is the intent is to promote higher density housing with retail, service, commercial, and other active uses to complete a pedestrian-friendly, transit-supportive urban environment along Grant Avenue. The aim is to create an animated village corridor that supports future planned investment in rapid transit infrastructure and creates a strong urban entry into the development site. Commercial mixed use. That's the orange along that runs along Keniston. The intent of the commercial mixed use designation is to promote a wide range of retail and service commercial uses, as well as office and major cultural facilities that serve not only the surrounding residential neighborhoods, but also the wider city and the Treaty 1 communities. Then there's a residential medium. Residential medium is the center of the master plan or the site plan. The intent is to promote a well-designed multi-unit housing types that provide a mix of tenures and offer a range of housing options for households of all ages, abilities, makeup, and income levels. Lower density. The lower density designation is intended to promote a mix of well-designed lower density housing types and locations along the western edge of the site. The aim of this designation is to ensure compatibility with land uses and established neighborhood areas adjacent to the site. Sports and recreation. The intent of the sports and recreation designation is to promote the development of community and regional scale cultural and recreational facilities. Spaces for recreation and passive leisure activities contribute to overall health and well-being, offering residents, visitors, and our neighbors opportunities to pursue active and healthy lifestyles. Then there's a cultural on campus and education designation. It's to promote an integrated mix of institutional uses, including educational, cultural, and governance facilities that serve as a prominent center for Treaty 1 nation government and First Nations identity. And finally, community spaces. The intent of the community spaces designation is to promote the development of high quality connected network of publicly accessible parks and open spaces. Outdoor community spaces are a critical feature for the vision of these lands.
That's phenomenal. I love the fact that this project is going to highlight and magnify, as you noted, Indigenous design, but also Indigenous excellence. I think that's amazing. Our next question comes from one of today's title sponsors, University of Winnipeg.
Bonjour, Anin. Anemikiajik Dijinakas, Makwadundem, Negozibi Dunji, Apshinamananda Magayan Nungam. Hello, my name is Jennifer Niepanak. I'm the Associate Vice President for Indigenous Engagement at the University of Winnipeg. It's great to be here today and to hear about the plans for the former Kapyong Barracks. And it's even better to see that First Nations are taking their place at the economic development table in Winnipeg through this project. Young Indigenous people are the future of our province, and the business community is seeing the opportunity to bring in top Indigenous talent into their organization and the economic potential of tapping into this significant and growing customer base. The University of Winnipeg is playing a key role by educating some of the best and brightest future Indigenous leaders and by offering training to businesses called Indigenous Insights that will help you to understand important history, current realities, and culture. My question for you today is, what are you most excited about for the development of the Kapyong Barracks? Gitchimigwech.
As a developer, over the years, I'm really excited that we've now completed the master plan. Now it's time to develop and implement the plan. So that's the part I'm really excited about. I've working for Long Plain for many years and getting involved in a lot of projects. I missed getting into projects from design, I like being part of a design team. From wearing my hard hat and walking on the construction site, getting updates from the project managers and stuff like that. So that's part that excites me, is getting part of designing these businesses and these buildings, and everything from landscaping to interior design. I get excited about, and I'm really looking forward to that day to implement our plan. Of course, there's the benefits. Getting excited about our job creation. It's really important to highlight that it's about job creation and revenue generation. Our revenues generated will go back to the 7 First Nations to assist them in their economic well-being and their social well-being. So excited for that day that these businesses begin to develop. But for myself, I'm really looking forward to getting on the ground and designing things.
Awesome. What does the development mean to the Indigenous communities as well as our city and province?
Well, of course, there's as soon as the project starts, there's opportunities. There's opportunities for many people, and including our 21 First Nations, from the ground up, from preparing the site, from getting the infrastructure installed, also landscaping, the construction of these businesses, landing a job there in the future, is what something to look forward to for our young people. But we have the time right now. We've charted out 15 years of potential opportunities for people, and with a focus on our youth. So starting in the high schools, we went into the high schools and talked about the good project of Kapyong and how can you be involved. And so we've charted that out from year 1 to year 15. So you could chart out, I want to be a lawyer and I want to have an office on Kapyong. Okay, I want to get into construction. Well, you have some time, we're telling you, but don't wait too long, because we're ready to run on as soon as this reserve is created. We do have plans for the site in terms of development projects. Some of the first projects that we want to undertake is a gas station, an office building, a strip mall, and apartments. And that's just on one of the smallest. There's five parcels of land that make up the Kapyong, or the former Kapyong site, and we label them A, B, C, D, and E. And so our first development plan starts with block A, the smallest site, the smallest parcel on the site. But what's look forward to in terms of the city and the province? Wow, the opportunities are there. You know, in 2019, the Southern Chiefs Organization and the Manitoba Keewatin Okimak, or MKO, partnered with the Brandon University to research and document the Indigenous contributions to the broader Manitoba economy. And so their report is, you know, Manitoba First Nations contribution to the Manitoba economy. Their primary objective was to quantify the amounts of Indigenous and First Nations people in Manitoba in order to calculate their contributions to the provincial economy. So the study was done in 2018, 2019. They released a report. Their findings were that Manitoba, well, I'll use the word Indigenous, and Indigenous means First Nations, Métis, and Inuit. The Indigenous contribution to Manitoba's economy was $9.3 billion. Of that $9.3 billion, $6 million was raised in Indigenous businesses. There's 700 Indigenous businesses in Manitoba, so raising $6 billion to the economy. Then there's the First Nation governments, you know, and Métis and Inuit. $1.45 billion contributed to the Manitoba economy. Then there's the households like mine, for instance, and the other 130,000 First Nations citizens in this province. Household contribute to $1.38 billion to the economy. You know, you asked that question about misconceptions. We pay taxes. We shop in Winnipeg. We shop in Brandon. We shop in a lot of the major cities, paying taxes too. So, you know, that's the misconception. You don't pay taxes. Yeah, we do. You know, then there's the $420 million spent by the federal government, federal, Indigenous, and provincial government on infrastructure. That makes up the $9.3 billion that the Indigenous people have contributed to the economy of Manitoba, creating over 35,000 jobs in a year, providing $1.3 billion in wages, contributing to $2.3 billion to Manitoba's GDP. And that's greater than the manufacturing sector, greater than accommodations and foods and services. We're 3.9% contributed to the Manitoba's GDP, and just behind agriculture at 5.3%. So there are a lot of opportunities to work with First Nations and collaborate with First Nations. There's also a misconception that everything is given to us for free. And that's not the case. You know, we finance our businesses just like everyone else. In fact, the private sector contributions to partnerships to First Nations far exceed any government funding. Our First Nations are growing at a double rate than the Manitoba population. You know, the largest age group right now is from 0 to 14, and the population is going to double in 5 years in terms of that age, those ages, the younger ages. So I mean, we need to get ready for the youth, our youth. You know, a strong First Nations population will make a strong Manitoba population in terms of our contribution. So we really need to get our youth ready for this project. It's immense. You know, we need consultants. We need business advisors. You know, we have them internally, but we can't do every project ourselves. We're not experts in everything, so we need to hire consultants and business advisors. You know, banking institutions are going to be looking at us to lend money. There's money to be made with us. Then there's the construction of these businesses, right? There's also the supplying of these businesses. You know, the vendors and the goods and services that these businesses create. You know, the direct and indirect benefits are immense. I'll speak to an example of on the Madison Reserve of the Long Plain First Nation, where I previously was the CEO for many years. So I know some of these stats. The Madison Petro-Canada sells the most tobacco of this one company anywhere in Manitoba. So the fuel, you know, there's a tanker going there every 36 hours to top up the fuel tanks underground. That's how busy that gas station is, and how many goods and services are sold through that business. So that company that sells us those cigarettes, they're making a lot of money, and and all the other vendors. There's the Cokes and the Pepsi bottling companies and the Frito-Lays and so on. They're all making a lot of money at this one gas station. It's an award-winning gas station. It was nominated for Associate of the Year. It's got many awards for the management of and continued improvement of the management of that site. It's unfortunate though. I want to add though, sometimes we need to work twice as hard just to be accepted and looked at in terms of our management of our businesses, and we go that extra mile in customer service and management of our businesses. So I mean, that's addressing that as a misconception that we're doing very well. So and we have a lot of great partners and a lot of potential partners. So yeah, the benefits, there's lots.
Excellent. Well, thank you so much for going in depth there. Our next question comes from one of today's title sponsors, Cushman Wakefield Stevenson.
Hello, my name is Martin McGarry. I'm the CEO of Cushman Wakefield Stevenson, a commercial real estate firm here in Winnipeg. Like many organizations and commercial real estate people, we're very excited about what's about to happen at Kapyong. We believe we're all part of the same team to make this successful for both Winnipeg, Kapyong, the First Nations community, and our province as a whole. We see great benefit to this project for everybody, but maybe Tim, you could tell me personally about how you see this project benefiting the Winnipeg community.
Well, there are many benefits for the Winnipeg community to be involved in the Kapyong Barracks. There's the Treaty 1 purchasing goods and services. Whether it's developing the site, and whether it's supplying the site as a vendor, coming to repair the buildings and the sites. The opportunities are there for goods, the purchase of goods and services. But when you think about the spinoff or indirect benefits, from that, in that company may have hired a couple more employees to work on a Kapyong client, or and that's that employee buying goods and services in the city of Winnipeg and paying taxes and paying rent or mortgages. So it's just a great opportunity for all.
Turning to broader topics, we understand Treaty 1 Development Corporation was just named one of the 10 to watch by the Indigenomics Institute. What is Indigenomics?
The Indigenomics Institute works with Indigenous nations and organizations, governments, and private industry to strengthen Indigenous economic capacity and achieve Indigenous community and economic objectives. The Institute facilitates this through research, education, and management and consulting services. The Indigenomics 10 to Watch is an annual recognition of businesses, entrepreneurs, Indigenous economic development corporations, and joint partnerships with nations and innovative businesses that are demonstrating the advancement of the emerging $100 billion annual Indigenous economy. The Indigenomics 10 to Watch are Indigenous businesses or partners that have demonstrated excellence, innovation, leadership, and committed action towards the growth of the Indigenous economy.
Excellent, thank you. Why did Treaty 1 Development Corporation receive the award, and how does the development at Kapyong rate in size from a Canadian perspective?
Well, as mentioned, each year the National Indigenomics Institute names Indigenous companies to their 10 to watch list, which is based on excellence, innovation, leadership, and contributions that will or make the growth to the Indigenous economy. So we were very excited and honored to receive our very first award at Treaty 1. And having visited so many urban reserves throughout Canada in the past few years, and in my employment with Treaty 1 and in my employment with Long Plain First Nation, this is going to be Canada's largest urban reserve. We are certainly the most strategically located on some of the most prized land in a major urban center. That clearly sets us apart. When these lands are fully repatriated and developed, it unlocks endless opportunities for Treaty 1 nations and for Winnipeg.
Phenomenal. Our last question of the day is, what current and potential impacts does Indigenomics have on the Canadian economy?
Indigenous businesses across Canada is currently valued at 32 billion in all areas of business, industry, and the private sector. Based on a national report by TD Bank and a new national Indigenomics strategy, it is expected to skyrocket to 100 billion in the next 5 years. And certainly the Kapyong Barracks can contribute to that. In large part, this is being fueled by Indigenous people now owning masses of land through our treaty land entitlements, which will continue to drive partnerships, investments, and long-term growth. In Manitoba alone, there are many dozens of Indigenous owned and operated business fueling Indigenomics. So we're proud to be committed to the Indigenous growth.
Amazing, thank you. Well, that is all the time we have for today's fireside chat. Thank you so much for joining us today, Tim. I often think back to a podcast featuring retiring Senator Murray Sinclair, who shared that reconciliation is not a spectator sport. You have to become involved. You have to be engaged, and people have not yet embraced that idea. The more people and voices speaking and operating with genuine care and compassion around reconciliation, we will continue to push society forward. I look forward to seeing firsthand the development of the Kapyong Barracks and the relationships between Indigenous and non-Indigenous communities flourish. I truly believe our members will benefit from your talk today, and we are so grateful to have had you here with us today, Tim. Thank you. Before we move into our breakout sessions, I want to remind you of 2 events coming up. Mayor Brian Broman returns for another State of the City address on Friday, March 19th, to give a progress report on Winnipeg's infrastructure, innovation, inclusivity, and more, as well as a look ahead to the challenges and opportunities on the horizon. Register for the virtual event today at winnipeg-chamber.com. For over a decade, the Winnipeg Chamber has been spotlighting the most innovative, creative, and community-building companies in Winnipeg through its Spirit of Winnipeg Awards. This year's event will be held virtually on May 27th. We believe it is more important than ever before to highlight the incredible businesses within our community. Applications close on March 4th. So be sure to visit our website at winnipeg-chamber.com to apply, nominate someone, or to learn more. Now we have come to the part of the program where you have the opportunity to connect and hear from other members in the Winnipeg business community. It's time to network. This is your opportunity to participate in virtual networking roundtables, debrief what you learned, and share your thoughts with other local business community leaders, all while connecting with a purpose and building meaningful relationships. Maybe even schedule a coffee date in the near future. Here's how it's going to work. On the left-hand side, you'll see a tab that says Sessions. Under the Stage tab, in each breakout room, the individual who's been at their current organization the longest will be the conversation facilitator. If you are the facilitator, please encourage each attendee to do quick introductions. From there are 3 questions to guide each roundtable discussion. The three questions are: what are you most excited about for the development? Question 2, what is your own experience with the journey to reconciliation? Question 3, how do you plan to continue to grow in your journey to reconciliation? Okay, now it's time to network and discuss with other members in your community. Please click on the Sessions button. Once your breakout session is done, you do not need to return or go back to the stage. The meeting will be adjourned. Have fun.